Out, wait a second here, let's watch what you're doing with your strengths. And as you can see from the subtitle, what you are best at could be your biggest problem. And so it's a completely different way to look at strengths. On your outline, I'd like to just call your attention to the first quote that I have. What they said was, and this is from the website, that most leaders understand intuitively that strengths can become weaknesses when overplayed. Ask them for examples, and they are quick to recall stories about extreme bosses or over-the-top colleagues and subordinates who can get carried away. But ask them what they overdo themselves, well, the stories aren't so forthcoming. It's perfectly understandable. The way the human visual system is set up, the one thing you can't see very well is yourself. And besides, you don't go overboard on purpose. You're usually trying to do your best when you overshoot the mark, even when you don't realize it. And I think that's a great way to really summarize what the problem is as people work with strengths. And I reproduced for you here their bio. These are very credible authors. They've done a lot of consulting work in major companies and so forth. Also, I put on your outline, I really hope all of you will take a few minutes to do this today or over the weekend. You can get a self-assessment of your own strengths based on the dimensions that they talk about in the book. And so if you see on your outline, there is a two-dimension, two-axis diagram about how strengths work. In the vertical axis of the diagram, you'll notice that this is focused on the what, the operational, the tactical side. And on the horizontal axis, you have the how. And this is going from forceful to enabling, talking about where in fact you are as you work with other people. And the quote on the outline is, of the course of a career, one strength hypertrophies while the other atrophies. In the course of our work, we have concluded that there are two core dualities that confront all leaders. The need to be forceful combined with the need to be enabling, and the need to have a strategic focus combined with the need to have an operational focus. Together, these dualities constitute the how and the what of leading. And so part of this then is in chapter 3 on your outline, and it's called the mindset. And the authors talk about what's behind being overused and also what's behind lopsidedness. One of those being the hero syndrome. Because you're using your strength, you tend to think of yourself as somebody who is self-important. Back to the next page then, it talks about dialing back. And this is the idea of how you work on this mindset. And this is an interesting quote. Left to their own devices, most leaders won't work on their mindset. They're more conditioned to work on their behavior itself, their form, than on the psychology behind it. They're used to getting feedback on their behavior, coming up with a plan to change it and trying to behave in the prescribed new way. But they leave mindset leverage on the table. And so this little table I put on the outline is kind of funny, I think. The behavior change is, I'm going to stop overwhelming people. Mindset change, I don't have to give up my fastball, I just don't need to throw it all the time, okay? And so the idea of dialing back, turning it down, pushing it down, and so forth. And what happens is people try too hard, and they simply have to learn about how to dial back their strength. So the book concludes with how, in fact, you are a complete leader with this road to versatility. Accept yourself, test yourself, and offset yourself as a good way to compensate for weaknesses. So y'all, in total, this is quite a book. Notice it's not a big book, but it's quite a book for rethinking this fad about strengths and really thinking about where you are on the scale here. And again, I encourage all of you to take this assessment. It's really pretty interesting. It'll give you some description and even some hints for a behavioral change in that area. Hope you enjoyed that synopsis of Fear Your Strength.